welcome to the Own It Show. I am Heather Lee Chapman, your holistic transformation coach and host, and we are here with the one and only special Roz RainDancer, who is a holistic realtor helping individuals, couples, and families land the home of their dreams. Her mission is guiding and empowering buyers and sellers through what often can be a stressful real estate transaction with a mind, body, spirit approach that brings emotional wellness and financial peace. So thank you so much for being on the show today, Roz. Tell us a little about you.
Thank you so much, Heather, for having me. I'm so thrilled to share this space with you and, have this conversation. And yes, a little bit about my journey. So I was born and raised in Southeast Asia. My family moved to Vancouver when I was 12, and I have had what I call a non-traditional, very entrepreneurial journey. I started my first business when I was 16 years old, making websites. And I spent about a decade in marketing communications, in that industry, was a consultant as well. Then from there, I became a business leadership coach. It just sort of organically flowed that way. And then, 2020 came, and the world, has never been the same since. So coming into real estate, I felt a real calling to pivot to this space, simply because when I was in business leadership coaching, I was helping leaders and founders and entrepreneurs to build the business of their dreams. And now I feel so blessed and privileged to help people find the home of their dreams. So it's, I love the continuity there.
I love that. That's incredible that you bring your holistic approach to all that you do. And I know you have such a great extensive background in your business, as well as how you got started in as a realtor, and even more as in shamanism and what have you. So tell us a little bit more about that journey and how you became a realtor.
Well, let me see if I can condense the story. It all started, I would say, around 2018, when I had spent, like I said, almost a decade in coaching. I did very much love it, helping people. And at the same time, I was feeling kind of like a nudge to, do something different. And at that time, I was also very much growing in my faith. So I grew up in the Christian church. At the same time, I also was exposed to the traditions of Buddhism because my dad was Buddhist and my mom was Christian. And growing up, I was very much, I would say, steeped in the Christian culture, but not in others. So I would say in my 20s, like most of my 20s, I actually followed some teachers and mindfulness and meditation. I also had pretty rigorous yoga practice, although it's mellowed out now. So I definitely had that exploration. And then I think many of our viewers can relate. When you're on an entrepreneurial journey, or you're starting a business, it's probably one of the most intense and spiritually, mentally, emotionally taxing thing you could do. And so for me, a big part of my journey has been engaging in my own personal healing as well. And so through that journey, I met my teacher in the medicine wheel, which is a pretty common system of health, living, and wellness from many of our indigenous brothers and sisters. And so I went on that journey as well. Coming to a place where I am trained to, offer medicine, everywhere I go, if that makes sense. I may not have a door, an office that says I'm a healer, but I definitely integrate that in everything that I do, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Yeah. I tell a lot of my clients are healers, and I say, you heal people just by being in their presence and sharing your knowledge with them. And so we might not have a big title and it might not have a door, and we're always healing with all that we do and all that we are. So thank you for that. And I
Mhm.
love that you've had a mixture of spiritual upbringing that has shown you a way you can look through different lenses at life.
Yes, and I would love to kind of thread the piece to, how did I become a professional in real estate. I really felt like it was a call to, a bit of a homecoming for me, simply because by 2020, I would have been in Canada about 20 years. And I felt like God was calling me to get even more personal and do a little bit more work, with the people I'm meant to serve. So what I mean by that is, already when I was in coaching businesses and entrepreneurs, it's never just about, as you know, Heather, it's never just about the business. It gets really personal because you are your business. Uh, at the same time, I part of my journey has been, really feeling like, as an immigrant and as a woman of color, never feeling like I kind of belong. Like, it's always like, oh, I'm like a little too Canadian for my, culture of origin, and at the same time for the mainstream culture, not quite. But I now celebrate, all the different flavors and colors, and I just felt so called. In fact, it all happened just by following some signs. People started mistaking me to be a realtor in that time where I was really open to guidance. And this happened about half a dozen times until I finally listened,
You're like, all right, spirit, I got the point.
which was never part of my plan. And I'm a big planner. So for those of you are, it's like you've got your 5-year plan and your 10-year plan. This absolutely was not in my plan. But I think one of the most exciting things about being on this journey of life and entrepreneurship, if you're someone who is spirit led, is that it can take you to places that you never expect, and there's so many gifts waiting on the other side.
Absolutely. And I love the saying that talks about how if we're so stuck on our plan, spirit, God, source, creator of all that is sending you in, you asked for something and you think it has to happen this way. And spirit's like, but I'm over here. It's so much easier. I'm giving it to you. And if we don't pay attention to those signs, we often can miss those opportunities. So usually I joke that about the third time, it starts knocking even louder. So pay attention. And so after about 6 times, you're like, okay, I got the hint. I'm leaning in. And you're revolutionizing the industry because it's taking that holistic approach and bringing it into all that you do. And there's a whole market of holistic buyers and sellers who want to work with someone like you who can speak their language, meet them where they're at, and treat them like a whole. So, thank you for doing what you do and changing the industry and revolutionizing it. That's amazing.
Oh, wow. Thank you for seeing that.
Uh,
Yes.
Of
Yeah.
course, of course. We need a holistic somebody revolutionizing every industry. So I've worked with a client that is doing it in law and
Mm.
trademarks, and then I met you, and I was like, "This is amazing." As soon as you started speaking, we met at the Forum Connect, and I was like, I need to talk to her more," because I just loved how you intertwined your holistic approach into all that you do. And I love that you created holistic tips for us today that people can apply to any business. So why don't we dive in and tell me about your first tip?
Absolutely. So, you asked me about, okay, what tips do you have for our audience, for your community, with regard to a zone of genius? And today I want to share, how do you integrate a holistic approach to any business? So one of my very first tips is actually going to sound, pretty basic, but a lot of times it's like, some of the beautiful pieces of wisdom that you might come across is actually very, very grounded, very rooted in the basics. So really important is to get crystal clear on your values, on your core values. So what do I mean by that? And these do not come from some kind of business plan. Really look at your personal journey. What are the moments in your life in which you have you have really encountered maybe a challenge, because we learn from those challenges and obstacles, and you've come to learn about who you are and what's important to you. So determine what those are. I know, for example, I have a top 7 values, a document, like we were talking about that earlier, Heather, in which, for example, building a diverse community of belonging. So it's in kind of like one of my top 7 values, is very, very important to me. And, more than knowing what your values are. So the first step is just knowing what they are. And then secondly, ask yourself, how do you express that in your business, right? This makes your business unique. And this then automatically, sets you apart from everyone else, So for example, I am very community driven. So on Fridays, I integrate that into my schedule. I make sure I actually take Friday afternoons off because I do work on the weekends with those open houses. And I work a reverse schedule simply because I meet with people when they're not working. Does that make sense?
Yes,
So
yeah.
on Friday afternoons, I take it off, but I'm not really off because I am connecting with my community. So that's when I schedule coffees. That's when I schedule either in-person coffees or virtual coffees. And so I make sure I keep that open. I don't book anything else. For example, on Sundays, I call it like sacred Sundays. So I work on Sundays, which is important to me. Now, in terms of even like, approaches. So on Saturdays, I do work, right? And I host my open houses. But more than that, I actually go around to the neighborhood and do door knocking and whatnot. So it's not about having some kind of prescription, when I first became a realtor, we had a lot of training and they would tell you, oh, you should do this and do that and do this 10 times a week or 5 days a week. It's not about following some kind of prescribed method. It's about knowing what is important to you and how do you express that, which in turn will bring that holistic approach. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Automatically,
absolutely.
it will. Make it you, make it make it make it your own, which is I love because the whole name of the show, it's called Own It.
Yeah.
Own
And
it.
you gotta own it your way, otherwise it's not owning it.
Yeah, yeah. And another example is that, I really value environmental sustainability. So I actually don't talk about this a whole lot. However, there is a whole movement now more than ever. It had started about, 10, 15 years ago. There was a whole movement toward energy efficient homes, LEED certified, well certified buildings. And so I'm very discerning about even, when I'm picking and choosing properties for a buyer, I always want to lead with that, with the sustainable building practices, like more energy efficient. And, somehow or another, somebody in my community invited me to speak to a municipal council meeting. So then I show up and I never thought I'd be involved in civic politics. It's not really my jam, you know what I mean? Like, I'm a realtor. But then it occurred to me, it all connects. It's all interconnected. So then I show up there as the only real estate agent in the room, speaking, advocating for more energy efficient homes, because I know that it is overall not only good for the environment, better for the environment, but also better for people's health. And I know by working on the ground that there is consumer demand for this.
Mhm.
People understand that it's going to save them in the energy bills over the long term, so they are choosing this. So that's another example of just integrating the holistic, without needing to be an expert in like meditation or you know you know yoga or those kinds of practices. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. We were talking about that before, where a lot of the times if people think holistic, they think about yoga, praying, meditation, crystals, essential oils, things like that. But holistic really just means taking that whole approach. And I like how you take it as like taking the whole of you and intertwining it in all that you do. So finding those key values that are important to you that you stand by, that are non-negotiables, that you incorporate in all that you do. And I love your sacred Sundays. I have a no schedule Sunday. That's what I call it. And I say it's the day to be a human being instead of a human doing. And so if I wake up at 5 a.m. and I want to go to 7 a.m. yoga and cold plunge, I'm going. And if I don't, I don't. Because for all the times that we're on the go from clock to next thing to next thing, and we're just doing, there's something so magical about pausing and just being in the now and moving through the flow and feeling what feels good and doing what is in your highest interest, not what your calendar tells you you have to be doing that day. So that's one of my principles, is to practice more of being a human being, and so versus a human doing. And so I incorporate that into my no schedule Sundays. And the first Friday of every month is our mental health day for the whole company. So that's also a no schedule rule. And that, for a lot of people listening, they're like, how is that possible? You might have to enroll people in your life. I'm not the, I was saying to somebody today, like, you're not the mom Uber today, you're not the mom chef today, you're not all the things. So you may need to enroll some family members to help and support. And so I know when my sister was also doing this, it meant enrolling the grandparents into babysitting that day so that she could just have a day to be a human being instead of a human doing. So I know that's one of my key values, and I intertwine that into my holistic approach. And that's my no schedule Sundays, which I might start calling sacred Sundays, because I love
Yeah,
that.
sacred is a good term for that. And on that note, Heather, the second tip really is about um, it's about balance. So understand the laws of nature and understand, the energetics of the situation, or each situation in your business. And I actually highly recommend taking some kind of course. Maybe Heather, you already have one, some kind of course in, how to manage different personalities, right? It's like, from sales, it comes in very handy. Just, relating to people, because you want to be offering the counterbalance. So for example, if you encounter a client, regardless of what industry you're in, and they are already very holistic, in the sort of traditional sense of the word, then actually maybe their medicine that you provide them is, being more practical, right? Being more sort of rooted in, okay, these are the actions that you need to take, as opposed to, spending like half your session meditating with them. It's just an example, right? And so, and then, bring balance, into your business, looking at your financial metrics. How do you bring balance to that? If you have spent the last 6 months kind of driving and doing and, hustling, just like what you were saying, Heather, maybe take a week or 2 weeks in which you're reflecting, you're reviewing, you're gathering, you're gathering wisdom from like what you learn, right? If you feel like your cash flow is a challenge, well, maybe bring the other side to it, which is like take a little bit more action, that kind of thing, because like money flows where energy goes. So be very values driven, be attuned to what your clients really need, um, and give them what they need, while you express your values, in the best way. So that to me is being holistic. Does that make sense? You don't need some kind of certification. I mean, if you want to, you can, so that's really important. And then I would say the third tip is, get creative, get innovative. I consider myself, I should say proudly a unicorn in this industry. And the reason for that is I've always been someone who thinks outside the box. Mind you, please, caution, do not break any kind of legal, ethical, or moral codes while doing this. There were a couple of times this year in which, I felt really satisfied with the results that my clients got. And it was because I really thought outside the box. So, quick example, I had a buyer looking for a home, and they were a first-time home buyer. And when I talked to the financial professional as well as talked to the client, I determined that their goal wasn't actually to, kind of bask in that, oh wow, I have my first home. He actually had an investor mindset. And it turned out actually what would be better for him is to keep his rental. Does that make sense? So most people would think, oh yeah, okay, I want to get out of the rental, let me get into a home so I can, stop paying rent, to someone else and pay someone else's mortgage. But for this particular client, that wasn't a motivation. And so by him keeping his rental, in fact, he was able to rent out his purchased home, right? And was able to kind of pay off the mortgage much quicker. And now we're actually having a conversation around, upgrading a lot sooner than if he actually lived in the home. Does that make sense? Because he could
Mhm.
have had more expenses. And then he kept his very affordable rental, so that worked out great. Another quick example is I recently, helped a buyer simply by listening to what felt right in the situation. Typically in this industry, when you're making offers, a lot of it's done by email. You don't really you don't really interact that much. There's a sense of you hold everything close to your chest, that kind of thing, that kind of culture. And I just had an intuitive hit. Hey, I want to invite the seller's agent out for tea. And because I really felt strongly that this was the perfect home for my buyers. I took a risk. I didn't know if they were going to say yes or no or whatnot. And it turned out great. And during that tea meeting, I just presented very, very honestly, this is the situation, and this is why my buyers, would be a great fit. And the dates did not quite work out first. And there were a few things that were not matching up, but we came to the middle. I think if you humanize your interactions, really it applies to any business. Don't feel like you cannot you cannot get creative. As long as you do it ethically.
Yeah, thinking outside the box and being creative and being innovative is incredible, and being realistic and being professional about it. So, like you say, not breaking any any rules or regulations. And I
Yeah.
love that you bring that creativity into all that you do. And God's gift to us is our imagination, and our gift to Him is to create with it in the highest good for all involved. And so I loved how you had that. Could have somebody might have just been like, "Oh, it was a no." Email said no, it's a no go, and just let it go. And instead, you followed your intuition and knew that it could be a perfect fit, sat with them, which somebody else might not have done, and found the middle ground so it could be a win win win. And I love that. And that's getting creative versus just starting fresh and moving on to the next thing that probably would have left them feeling empty because they really wanted the last one. So I
Mhm.
love that you got creative and made that happen for them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I would say, to everybody watching this, don't be afraid to get creative. Don't feel like you have to have 10 years of meditation under your belt to integrate holistic approaches. It really can be just about, knowing who you are, knowing who your clients are, and and having that service mentality, servant leadership mentality. And don't forget they're also human beings, so humanize the whole experience for them.
Yeah, I love that. Humanizing sales, because we are real people and we all have real needs and wants. And when we can humanize it and meet everyone where they're at, then we can really help everybody win. I love it. So that was amazing. So get crystal clear on your top core or five or seven values. She had seven. She recommends five. That's the tip number one. Number two was being holistic in your business isn't just about crystals and what have you. It's about balance and understanding the laws of natures and energetics of each situation, and often being the counterbalance. And getting creative was number three. Get creative, adaptive, and innovative, and begin to think outside the box. I absolutely love it. And you have a gift for us today, a great newsletter you guys can all get on. So tell us why they want to join it.
Absolutely, thank you. So I gotta say, I have a marketing communications background, so there's still that side of me. I am a writer also. I've co-authored a couple of books. And I'm very much about curating my monthly newsletters. I do believe that it is different from, other real estate newsletters in which they just have a lot of boring data. I do have the boring data as well. So you can get current on any market updates. I do provide all the bar charts and everything. But then also, I include a lot of holistic lifestyle recommendations as well as community connections. And oftentimes I also feature a small business friend or collaborator. And you can grab that from the Linktree link that I believe, Heather, you'll pop into the.
Yeah, that's in the description below. You can grab it right now.
Yeah, so actually it'll give you the last 3 months as well as some other links. So I actually take all of the links in my newsletter and I pop it into my link tree so that you can, even all the lifestyle recommendations, so you can kind of get it all there as well. And it is updated around mid-month every month. So I do encourage you to have a read, forward to a friend. It is jam-packed usually. Heather, you've seen it, yeah?
Yeah, you're awesome.
I mean, it's sectioned well, but it's like one of those newsletters you get to savor, like have your, pumpkin spice latte. I know it's fall right now, moving into holidays in the winter. Like I think you need a good like 20 minutes, I think in this day and age when it's usually just sort of like sound bites or just something short, I think there's a real value and a real joy in savoring something and kind of allowing it to sit with you and seeing how it lands and inspire you to take the next action.
I love it. Absolutely amazing. So, you guys, that link is there right now. So, you can go and check it out. So much value in there for you already, and so much more to come. So, make sure you click on that. And we always like to finish the show with your favorite book recommendation and why. So, tell us about it.
Oh my gosh, I love it. So I know, Heather, you and I talked about how it was all nearly impossible to pick just one. But I will share one, a series of books. They often come in one anyway, so it's a trilogy. One of my favorite authors recently went back to read her works again, is a woman by the name of Florence Scovel Shinn. And she actually wrote her books in the 1920s, 1930s, 40s. And I believe she's, in fact, one of the female pioneers of all of these sort of now well-known concepts like law of attraction and manifestation and, sort of dream visualization, creative visualization. So all the laws of success, I do believe she wrote about it even way back when. And so her books are called The Game of Life and How to Play It, Your Word is Your Wand, and The Secret Door to Success. So if you just look her up on Amazon, the trilogy often comes in one book. And the reason I love her is because first of all, she's a female writer. So already,
Check.
kind of, yeah, exactly. But more importantly, she actually weaves in a lot of scripture into her writing. I don't know that she called herself, a follower of Christ or anything like that. But certainly she referenced the Bible quite a bit, which really speaks to my faith. And I think one of the biggest tasks we have as humans is how do we bring our gifts that we're all born with, our spiritual gifts, and make it into something beautiful here on earth, so that it could bless others even more. So I love how she combines that. You will, if you have read any of the, sort of more new age principles, a lot of it you'll find here, but I believe in its purer form, if that makes sense.
Yes, yeah, one of the original forms. And I had to write it down because I love that you called it the laws of success instead
Mm-hmm.
of say like universal laws, right? We know the laws are operating whether we understand them or not, and they are the true laws for success. So when we can learn to understand them and incorporate them in all that we do, we can work with the universe instead of against it. And it reminds me of Neville Goddard's work. He speaks a
Mm.
lot of the Bible, and The Power of Awareness is one of the most powerful books I've ever read and listened to, and has absolutely changed my life. And I do it at least annually. And so now I've got to check these ones out as well.
Absolutely. I do believe they're cousins. I have read his works as well. They're kind of cousins in terms of, the concepts that they touch on. And I would say I enjoy Florence's style. And also quick note for our female audience that she does write sometimes from the masculine perspective, like the he and the him pronouns. That's just reflective of the times. But of course, they do apply to everybody.
I love that. Yeah, plug in what works for you.
Mhm.
Amazing. Well, it's been such an honor and pleasure to have you on the show. Is there anything else you'd like to add for our listeners today?
Well, thank you so much for this conversation. Thank you for the opportunity to share, what holistic approach to real estate looks like, and also, for any business. I would just say, having been on this journey for 20 plus years, that to not do it alone. I think the whole lone wolf mentality is long buried. Is like, I don't know, it's become compost, you know what I mean? So
I love it. It's at the bottom of the compost now. It's soil.
it's like I don't even know if anyone right now who has that mentality, the whole idea of being self-made and all that. I think we're dismantling that, and like the new wave is really about, collaboration. Don't do it alone. Get people up, like in front of you, behind you, beside you. It doesn't matter. Don't go through it alone. Get resource, get help, and don't be afraid to ask for help.
Yeah, I love it. So it's time to give up that vicious independence and
Mhm.
truly work with people that can support you and guide you on your journey, because no successful person did it alone. I love it. Thank you so much for that. Incredible episode. So, you guys, we will have so much more for you to come as always. And I want you to go ahead and grab that link right now. Connect with Roz RainDancer, your holistic realtor, and please do tell us where you are located and working and where they can work with you. I mean, you want to grab that newsletter because of all the benefits of it, anyways. And where are you located if somebody did
Yeah,
want to work with you?
based in Greater Vancouver, British Columbia. However, in my brokerage, we are nationwide and even international. So we are in, I believe, all 25 countries right now. So then I'm very happy, even if you are not based where I am in British Columbia, Canada. I'm very happy to, find someone who can help you where you are.
Amazing, Roz. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. Incredible episode. And remember, everybody, stay happy, healthy, wealthy, expect magic and miracles. And what is the best that can happen? We'll see you on the next episode. Thank you.